I want to thank you so much for this honor. Thank the actors. It's a very surreal experience to hear stories, some of which are old, interpreted by such talent. I like the stories better now. I like the stories better now. Yeah, no, it was a beautiful experience. So thank you so much for it's funny to well, it's strange really. The stories are so odd, and then you hear them as a civilian, and you're like, oh shit, But in every case, the actors redeemed it with their emotional investment. So I'm very grateful.
Their emotional investment, but yours, and that's why I feel very emotional about your stories, because obviously you're a realist and you're an absurdist. You realize how completely fucked all these systems of control are, etc. And given the changing climate in the last decades that you've been writing, but I feel personally, having been very immersed in these stories, trying to figure out which ones to select for one evening, that ultimately you believe in love, you believe in optimism in a funny way, and as dire as the human condition seems to be, there's redemption in these pockets of life. And I would kind of love to be a fly on the wall inside your brain as you're sort of, it's like a battle. Like it's a battle from these forces. And, yeah, you're a maniac, and how do you deal with all the voices?
I mean, I think that that's it. Yeah, let's make ourselves known. The first thing, yes, I think it's a pretty scary world, but I think we just experience about the most hope you can, which is I, trusted this imaginary group of people that I didn't imagine existing. The actors came up, they communicated, and there were moments where people were really in it. They cared what happened to these imaginary beings. So to me, that's always, it's all about respect. So when I'm writing a story, I'm imagining the reader with a lot of generosity. Like, you're smart, you're gonna get this, I can go a little faster and be a little weirder than is conventional. The reader rises to meet me. Meanwhile, we're also doing the same with the characters. They might start off as cliches, and we try to humanize them in every line together. So in the end, it's that connection that I think is the whole point. That moment of intimacy where really there's a mind melt between the artist and the receiver of the thing. So that's hopeful at any time, I think. And it's, yeah. And everything that's going wrong is the opposite of that. Where I don't believe, there are people passing along information. They don't give a shit about you, actually. They want to manipulate you. They're not trying to be in intimate relationship with you. They're trying to be in a dominative relationship with you. So fiction, to me, is like the anti-propaganda, really. It's the most intimate way we can talk to each other. So, and I forgot the second question, but.
I read that, you read the way I think about word theater, which is to be better, like to feel connected to humanity, and that's clearly what these stories, do. Even, like in Sparrow, where you have the town being kind of judgmental and meany, and but or in the first story, like all of the stories, they had something that I picked that I just felt so beautiful about. Thing is, people think something is one thing, but then the dad is like writing about forgiveness, and and how do you do that in 362 words or whatever the hell it was, or in Sparrow, so beautifully so strangely to change the we to the I, to give an actor an opportunity to be every single person, the changing, like, yeah, cool.
No, it's actually a very perceptive question, because part of it is, and this is where the value in it lies for me, a story like Sparrow. I dreamed the first 5 or 6 lines. We were in our house in Oneonta, New York, and it was the middle of winter. have a dream. Okay, well, usually you abandon those. Oh, an orgy with penguins. Just stay in that. But that night, there was something about that voice. I'd been reading Gertrude Stein, and there was something insistent about it. So, all right, I'll get up. So I went into the kitchen, and I did something I never do, which is I finished the whole story in one pass. I never do that. But about halfway through, it's just at the line where it says, and then a change came.
Right.
Right. And I thought, but what I thought was, okay, now you got to drive this car into the ditch. You know, you've established this kind of vacant girl and this kind of arrogant guy. All right, I'll do it tomorrow.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll make it blow up in front of the whole town tomorrow. But I wanted to keep going, and then just impulse was like, hey, what if you don't? Speaking to my own habit, you know, my own habit is he's a dark-edged satirist. Gotta ruin the relationship then. But then I say, no, well, maybe I don't. You know, maybe there is actually neuroplasticity. And I can say, I don't want her to be hurt. And then you say to the universe, is there any way that such a person can be rewarded? And the universe goes, what do you think about it? Yeah, you know there is. You know better. So the habit doesn't know, but something deep in you does know because you've seen it a million times, you know? So then it's literally just saying, don't go in the ditch. I don't quite know how to make this work out, but if he doesn't go in the ditch, it'll work out. And then by the time the night was over, that story was based, I mean, I had 3 more months to perfect it, but that was the, so you're always in a battle with yourself. Victory lap, the same way. You know, you get to that scene where the guy's standing in front of this innocent girl, you know what has to happen. It's science, you know. But then I thought, well, that happened in that Flannery O'Connor story. That happened in the Joyce Carol story. You can't do that. And also, I don't want to. I like her too much. Yeah. So but then you have 2 paths. One is to falsify. She punched him in the face and he went down like a rock. That's bullshit. And that is the most cynical kind of storytelling. It's, you know, the happy ending that's false is all wrong. So the third option is, how can I make a viable escape? It took many months to figure it out. And then in the end, the story is smarter than you are. And you see it starting to say something entirely different. So anyway, it's fun.
It basically had the best line ever. I am the boss of me. If anybody has ever had a child, when they're 2 or 3, you're not the boss of me. I mean, but it's so freaking brilliant. It's so
We had a family like that in our neighborhood, and they had a system of treat points. And of course, we all made fun of them. But out of the 6 kids, 5 of them ended up being Olympic athletes.
Robert Morgan Fisher, come on up here. One question. This is one of a great writer and a great friend.
Thank you. And thanks for this reading. Yeah, I don't want to be like a tribunal here. So many of your stories, Victory Lap is one, The Falls, another one, are about characters meeting the moment. And I've noticed, you know, you are an expert at bringing the stakes, this life or death stakes. And the Victory Lap is a perfect example. But of course, we can't talk about George Saunders without the humor, right? And I think it's instinctive and organic. I don't think you write these stories and then go back and do a comic joke pass. It all goes hand in hand, right? Okay, so is that, my question is really simple. Do you layer in the humor? Because in writing the story, which is like an acting job, it gets really intense, and you're a sensitive guy, right?
Yeah, I don't layer it in, but I think it's sort of like what I've heard acting described this way, is you're trying to react to what's actually happening. And so in the story, you'll have an intention, you're going along pretty good. And then in rereading, you're like, ooh. Like in Victory Lap, when Allison says, to do good, all you have to do is be good. Yeah, okay, and that was me at 15. I was like, what's with all these fuck-ups? What's with all the horses and alcoholism? Come on, just try harder. And so I wrote that in for her, and then at about the 15th time through, you know, something in your mind says, really? To do good, all you have to do is try. Really, Allison? All right. Well, I'm afraid you just changed the design of the story, and I'm going to have this guy come in. So humor is the same way. You say something, and in rereading, you realize you've kind of made a moment, and you just take it. But I think it's really, if you think about the way moments actually occur, they're funny. I mean, there are always things happening, little excesses in conversation or in interchanges that are there to make humor. So I always think that humor is kind of like saying the obvious thing a little quicker, sometimes in bad manners. You know, you say what everyone else is thinking. But it's a Chicago thing for me. That was always you know, you were ready for it. Yeah. Well, it took me, I mean, that was the biggest, for me, I kept the humor out for many years. I was kind of a Hemingway dude. And then I just realized that was like having a fight with one hand behind your back. I wasn't using a skill that I use all the time in real life. Like in real life, when I'm feeling emotional or stressed or want to persuade somebody, I'm always funny. My first girlfriend, she pulled me aside and said, I'm going to break up with you because you always make me a joke. And then I made a joke. And so it's kind of a defense mechanism, but it's also kind of you know, sometimes in art, I tell my students at Syracuse, you kind of find out 3 things that you do, and then you alternate. I mean, I'm a very sentimental person, very earnest kind of actually. You can't take 10 pages of that shit. So you put as much as you can, and then you put in a fart joke. And I'm kind of kidding, but then in that moment, the reader who thinks they had you figured out as a sentimental person, then you make the off-color joke, they go, huh. And I heard somebody once talking about an actor, I can't remember who it was, but they said this person's interesting because sometimes you look at this actor and this person is beautiful. Sometimes they look really weird from a slightly different angle. So as a viewer, you're always going, which one is he? You know. So writers are saying, if I can give you 2 or 3 different modalities, that keeps you off balance, which really just functionally means that you keep reading. That's, you know, yeah.
Hey, that's it, ladies.